The flickering gas lamps cast long, wavering shadows across the slick cobblestones, their light struggling to penetrate the thick fog that clung to the city like a shroud. Every footstep echoed ominously, swallowed quickly by the labyrinthine maze of streets and canals. Elias's breath came in shallow bursts beneath the mask that obscured his face, his piercing gray eyes scanning every crevice for clues. The call had come just past midnight, another body discovered, the third in as many nights. The killer, that elusive ghost cloaked in shifting identities, had struck again. But this time, the murder carried a weight far heavier than the gruesome act itself. The scene whispered a message meant solely for Elias. He arrived just as the local police cordoned off the narrow alley where the victim lay sprawled, face obscured by a mask cracked and smeared with blood. The faint tolling of the church bells from a distant campanile marked the hour, a cruel reminder of time slipping relentlessly away. Marco Bellini, the gruff detective who had become an uneasy ally, was already on site, his rugged features hard as stone beneath the brim of his soaked hat. "It's bad, Elias," Marco muttered, voice low and gravelly. "This one's personal." Elias knelt beside the body, noting the faint traces of a symbol carved into the victim's palm, a cryptic sigil he recognized from his own fractured past. It was a calling card, a taunt, a declaration of vendetta. His heart tightened. The killer was no mere random murderer, but someone who knew him intimately, someone who sought to unravel his carefully constructed defenses. The weight of the revelation pressed down on Elias like the fog that swirled around them. Each murder was no longer just a puzzle to solve, but a calculated strike aimed straight at his own fractured identity. It was a game of shadows, and he feared he was losing. Later, in the dim glow of a Venetian cafe tucked away from the festival's grand halls, Elias met with Livia Conti. She sat poised and elegant, her dark hair cascading over a shimmering gold mask that caught the candlelight with every subtle movement. The room was thick with tension, the air heavy with unspoken questions and half-truths. "This killer," Elias began cautiously, "he's sending me a message. The symbol on the victim's hand, it's not random." Livia's eyes flickered with a mixture of concern and something unreadable. "Venice holds many secrets, Elias. Some are buried deep within the families who have guarded their legacies for centuries. Perhaps your past has more threads tangled with this city than you realize." Her words struck a nerve. Elias knew her loyalty was complicated, fiercely protective of her family's standing, yet undeniably valuable to his cause. Trust was a fragile commodity here, as brittle as the glass masks adorning the grand ball attendees. Meanwhile, Marco sifted through the evidence with methodical precision. The veteran detective's pragmatic approach grounded Elias, providing a steady counterbalance to the swirling chaos of shifting identities and betrayals. "We're chasing ghosts," Marco admitted, "but ghosts leave footprints. We just have to find where they lead." As midnight approached once more, Elias returned to his rented room overlooking a quiet canal. The space was littered with photographs, notes, and fragmented clues, each piece a shard of a larger puzzle that refused to come together. He traced his fingers over the symbol again, a bitter taste of recognition filling his mouth. Memories he had long tried to suppress surfaced unbidden: the botched operation, the colleague lost in the shadows, the guilt that gnawed at his soul. The killer wasn't just a menace in the present. They were the embodiment of Elias's past mistakes and regrets. His reflection in the cracked mirror caught his eye, the masked man staring back at him, an agent trapped between identities, haunted by the past and racing against time. The third murder was a turning point, a cruel escalation that forced Elias to confront not only the external threat, but the demons lurking within himself. The city around him remained alive with the masquerade's deceptive gaiety, but for Elias, the masks were slipping. The clock ticked relentlessly toward a conclusion neither he nor the killer could evade. The question was no longer who the killer was, but whether Elias could unmask the truth before it claimed him next. And as the first light of dawn threatened to break the spell of night, Elias knew the game had changed. The killer's vendetta was personal, the stakes higher than ever, and the shadow of the 13th mask loomed closer with every passing second. The lanterns cast long, wavering shadows that danced along the ancient stone walls. mirroring the unease twisting in his gut. Beside him, Marco Bellini moved with a grudging purpose, his eyes scanning the darkened corners like a hawk hunting prey. Their uneasy partnership had borne fruit fragments of a tangled web that stretched far beyond the city's glittering masquerade balls. But trust, Elias knew, was still a scarce commodity between them. So, the noble Conti family has more than just old money, Marco muttered, his voice rough like gravel as they paused beneath a flickering lamp. They've got secrets and some dangerous ones. Elias nodded, glancing around at the quiet street, the faint echoes of revelry a distant murmur behind them. Livia's been helpful, but I can't shake the feeling she's playing a deeper game. She's got her own loyalties and they don't always align with ours. Marco spat on the cobblestones, impatience lacing his tone. In this city, everyone wears a mask, figurative or not. The question is who's hiding what and why. The irony of their situation was not lost on Elias. Here they were, two men once at odds, forced into an alliance by the relentless shadow of a killer who shifted faces as easily as the tide. Each step they took peeled back layers of deception, revealing connections between suspects that blurred lines between friend and foe. Elias's mind raced to keep pace with the shifting puzzle pieces, the weight of the 30-night deadline pressing heavier with each passing hour. Later that evening, the pair found themselves in a dimly lit tavern nestled along a canal, its windows fogged from the cold night air. The room buzzed with muted conversations, laughter laced with suspicion, and the clinking of glasses. Among the patrons, masked figures mingled, their identities obscured beneath elaborate disguises that seemed to mock the very notion of truth. Livia Conti arrived with the grace of a shadow, her dark hair framing a face half hidden behind a silver filigree mask. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, met Elias's with a flicker of guarded warmth. "I hear you've been asking questions," she said softly, taking a seat beside him. Elias returned her gaze steadily. "And the answers are tangled in webs I don't yet understand." She smiled faintly, the curve of her lips betraying a hint of amusement. "Venice is a city built on secrets, Elias. Sometimes to find the truth you have to look where the light doesn't reach." Their conversation flowed like the canal waters outside, deep, winding and concealing more than it revealed. Elias sensed the underlying tension, the unspoken bargains, and the delicate balance of trust they were attempting to forge. But beneath it all, the ever-present motif of betrayal loomed, a specter shadowing every word exchanged. As the night deepened, Elias slipped away to speak with Sofia Marini, the bartender whose ears seemed attuned to every whisper in the masquerade's underbelly. Her voice was a low murmur amid the tavern's subdued chaos. "Rumors swirl like the fog," Sofia confided, sliding a glass across the bar. "There are those who would use the festival's anonymity to settle scores-old grudges, personal vendettas. You'd be surprised how many masks hide more than just faces." Elias leaned in, the weight of her words sinking deep. Each revelation tightened the noose around the elusive killer, but also further entangled the threads of suspicion and deceit. Later, beneath the indifferent gaze of a waning moon, Marco confronted a suspect in a narrow alleyway. The chill night air wrapped around them like a shroud as terse words were exchanged, the quiet menace in Marco's voice cutting through the silence. Elias watched from the shadows, heart pounding with the fragile hope that this fragile alliance might finally yield the breakthrough they desperately needed. But the question lingered, unspoken yet palpable. In a city where everyone hides behind shifting masks, who could truly be trusted? The masquerade was far from over, and with each passing moment, the stakes climbed higher. And somewhere in the labyrinth of Venice's winding streets and shadowed corners, the 13th mask waited, ready to strike again. As Elias and Marco retreated into the night, their fragile partnership held by threads of necessity and suspicion, the ticking clock reminded them the game was only just beginning. Elias Varga felt it keenly as he navigated the labyrinthine streets, the festive cacophony now tinged with an unmistakable undercurrent of menace. The laughter and music that once seemed the backdrop to his mission had warped into something darker, a dissonant symphony that echoed the shifting alliances and veiled threats at play. Livia Conti's presence was a constant puzzle. Tonight she was resplendent in a mask of gilded filigree, her dark hair cascading over a velvet gown embroidered with the crest of her venerable family. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, a siren's allure that seemed both inviting and warning. Elias had watched her from a distance, noting the subtle glances exchanged with shadowed figures at the edges of the piazza. Her loyalties were as layered as the masks they all wore, and each revelation about her only deepened the enigma. When he finally caught up with her behind a screen of cypress trees near the Palazzo Ducale, the noise of the crowd dulled to a muted hum. Livia's eyes, sharp and unyielding beneath her mask, met his with a flicker of hesitation. "Elias," she began, her voice low and measured, "you must understand, my allegiance is not so simple." He folded his arms, the weight of unspoken accusations hanging between them. "I thought we were allies." She laughed softly, a sound both bitter and resigned. "Allies, perhaps, but family comes first, always. The Conti name carries burdens you cannot fathom. I walk a tightrope, trying to protect both my blood and the fragile truth you seek." The tension coiled tighter in Elias's chest. Trust was a currency in short supply, and Livia's confession was both a crack in the facade and a warning. As she spoke, the distant tolling of church bells marked the hour, a grim reminder that time was slipping away. Meanwhile, Marco Bellini patrolled the canals with the grim determination of a man haunted by his past. The rain threatened to spill from the low-hanging clouds, the cobblestones slick beneath his boots. His rugged face was set in lines of weary resolve as he considered the uneasy alliance with Elias, a partnership born not of friendship, but necessity. The detective's world was one of shadows and unspoken debts, and tonight the masquerade's darkness seemed to seep into every corner of the city. At a nearby tavern, Sofia Marini moved with practiced subtlety, her keen eyes scanning the room as she tended the bar. The scent of spiced wine mingled with whispered secrets, her role as an information broker more vital than ever. Slipping a folded note into Elias's palm as he approached, she murmured, "Not everything is as it seems. Watch the council's envoy. There are whispers of a betrayal that could change everything." Elias unfolded the note, the coded message hinting at fractures within the political elite that governed the masquerade's pulse. The weight of the revelation pressed down on him, sharpening his focus even as it deepened the labyrinth of deceit. Back beneath the flickering lanterns of the piazza, Elias confronted Livia once more. "If your family's interests come at the cost of innocent lives, where do you stand?" he demanded, eyes searching hers for the truth. Her gaze faltered, the mask slipping briefly to reveal the turmoil beneath. "Between a rock and a hard place," she admitted. "But know this, I want the killer stopped as much as you do. The masquerade is more than a game, it is a battlefield where every move could be your last." As midnight approached, the city held its breath. The carnival's bright colors faded into shadows, the revelers' laughter replaced by whispers of suspicion. Elias felt the noose tighten, the lines between friend and foe blurring into a dangerous gray. In the heart of Venice, amid the shifting faces and secret agendas, Elias Varga stood poised on the edge of revelation and ruin. The carnival deepened, and with it the peril that awaited beneath the masks. He couldn't afford to falter. Not now, as the clock struck midnight, the flicker of a candle caught the edge of a mask glinting in the darkness like a silent warning. The game was far from over, and in Venice the masks were never truly removed. Elias Varga sat motionless, the muted crackle of the flame a fragile barrier against the darkness seeping into his mind. Outside, the rain traced erratic patterns on the stained glass, each droplet a whispered echo of memories he fought desperately to suppress. He closed his eyes, the silence around him folding into the sharp edges of the past. The botched operation played relentlessly behind his eyelids, the shouted commands, the sudden ambush, the blinding flash of gunfire. And then the final, irrevocable image of his colleague, eyes wide with betrayal and pain, collapsing into the unforgiving alley. Elias's throat tightened, a ragged breath betraying the stoic mask he wore in the field. Venice, with all its beauty and deceit, now felt like a labyrinth, not just of winding canals, but of fractured identities and unresolved ghosts. The masquerade outside the palazzo was in full swing, the joyous revelry a stark contrast to the turmoil within him. Every mask he saw was a reminder. Beneath each facade, a truth waiting to shatter. The door creaked open softly, and Livia Conti slipped inside, her footsteps light but purposeful. Her dark eyes, framed by an ornate black and gold mask, held a flicker of concern as she approached him. "Elias," she said quietly, "you've been distant tonight. The shadows are longer here than in the streets." He met her gaze, the weight of unspoken pain pressing down. "The past doesn't stay buried in Venice," he replied, voice low but steady, "especially not mine." Livia moved closer, the scent of jasmine and aged wine trailing behind her. "You carry more than this case, don't you?" He exhaled slowly, memories flooding anew. It was a mission gone wrong. I lost someone important. It's why I'm here, why I can't afford to fail again. Her eyes softened, but the mask remained. "Then you must let the past guide you, not bind you." "We all wear masks, Elias, some to protect, some to deceive." Their conversation was interrupted by the low murmur of guests below, laughter and music weaving through the night air. Yet within the palazzo, the tension was palpable, a fragile thread connecting two souls, navigating a maze of secrets. Later, Elias stepped out onto a narrow stone bridge, the fog swirling thickly around the lanterns hanging from wrought iron posts. The canal beneath mirrored the fractured moonlight, casting ghostly reflections that danced with the night's chill. Marco Bellini awaited him, arms crossed, his rugged face etched with concern and frustration. "You're slipping, Elias," he said gruffly. "The past is bleeding into your work, and it's clouding your judgment." Elias met his gaze, the weight of his own doubts mirrored in the detective's eyes. "I'm aware, but this case, it's not just about catching a killer. It's about confronting the part of me I left behind." Marco shook his head, the fog swallowing his breath. "Just don't let it get the better of you. We need you sharp." The uneasy truce between them was a fragile lifeline in a city where trust was as fleeting as the masks worn by its inhabitants. Back in his temporary quarters, Elias fired up a secure channel connecting with Alessandra Fiori. Her calm, steady presence on the other end was a balm to his fraying nerves. "Alessandra," he began, voice taut, "I'm running through the timelines again. There's a pattern emerging, but I can't shake this feeling that the killer's playing on my history." She nodded, fingers flying over her keyboard as data scrolled across her screen. "You're not imagining it. The links you uncovered are no coincidence. We need to dig deeper into your past operations. Sometimes the enemy wears familiarity like a second skin." Elias leaned back, the room spinning for a moment. "It's a dangerous game, one I'm not sure I'm ready to play." "You don't have a choice." "Not if you want to stop this," Alessandro replied firmly. "Remember, the masks people wear are fragile. They crack under pressure. We just have to find the right moment to expose the truth." Her words lingered as the call ended, leaving Elias alone with the weight of his memories and the relentless ticking of the masquerade's clock. The night deepened, and with it, the shadows lengthened, both in the city and within Elias himself. Each step forward in the investigation felt like walking a tightrope stretched over an abyss, the echoes of his past threatening to pull him under. Yet beneath the fear and doubt, a spark of determination burned. He would unmask the killer, no matter the cost. As the first light of dawn threatened the horizon, Elias stood at his window, watching the quiet canals shimmer with the promise of a new day. But in Venice, as in his own fractured soul, the masks were never fully removed, and the dance of deception was far from over. With a steadying breath, Elias prepared to face whatever the next night and the next mask would bring. The past was no longer just a shadow behind him. It was the battleground on which his future would be decided. And somewhere in the labyrinth of Venice's winding streets and shifting faces, the 13th mask awaited. Lanterns cast fractured reflections on the rippling canal waters, painting the world in flickering gold and shadow. His gray eyes scanned the crowd, each face a potential mask hiding a deadly secret. The city seemed to breathe with a life of its own, a labyrinth of shifting identities and whispered betrayals. Tonight marked the emergence of the killer's fourth mask, and with it, a new challenge that gnawed at Elias's resolve. He shifted slightly, the leather of his coat rustling softly as he adjusted the ornate mask concealing his features. The festival's cacophony, laughter, music, distant footsteps poured into his ears, yet his focus was razor-sharp. Time was bleeding away. The clock's relentless ticking echoed in his mind, a cruel reminder of the 13 nights allotted to unmask a ghost. Earlier that evening, his meeting with Livia Conti had ended with more questions than answers. The palazzo where they convened was a glittering cage of opulence. Crystal chandeliers swayed gently, casting kaleidoscopes of light over guests draped in sumptuous silks and baroque masks. Livia's dark hair framed her face like a curtain, her eyes bright but guarded as she leaned close to whisper. "The masquerade hides more than faces," she murmured, her voice a silk thread woven with urgency. "There are currents beneath the surface, alliances forged in shadow. The killer exploits this. You must be careful, Elias. Not everyone you trust will stand by your side." Her words echoed his own fears. The killer's ability to slip through their grasp, adopting new faces with terrifying ease, was beginning to unravel his confidence. Each mask was a layer of deception, a carefully crafted lie that blurred the lines between friend and foe. The night deepened, and Elias found himself navigating Venice's narrow alleys alongside Marco Bellini. The detective's gruff pragmatism was a grounding force amid the swirling chaos. They had tracked a figure matching the description of the fourth mask to a shadowed corner near the Rialto, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and rotting canal water. Marco's footsteps were deliberate, his voice low as he called out into the darkness. "You can't hide forever," Marco growled, but their quarry melted into the labyrinthine streets before they could close the distance. The chase ended with nothing but silence and the echo of fleeting footsteps. Frustration bloomed within Elias, a bitter seed that threatened to choke his composure. How could he catch a killer who seemed to anticipate every move? The masquerade was a perfect shield, a swirling dance of anonymity that played to the murderer's strengths. Later, seeking solace, Elias slipped into a dimly lit tavern where Sofia Marini tended bar. The place was a refuge for those who sought secrets rather than revelry. Sofia's sharp eyes flickered with recognition as he approached. "You look like a man who's carrying the weight of Venice on his shoulders," she said, pouring a glass of deep red wine. "Rumors don't come easy, but I hear whispers something about a new face, someone who's not just hiding but playing a game." Elias leaned in, the noise of the tavern dimming as he absorbed her words. Every fragment of information was a thread to pull, a clue to unravel the tangled web. Yet, with each revelation, the line between ally and adversary blurred further. Paranoia settled like a shadow across his thoughts, whispering doubts about every gesture, every glance. The killer was not just a man with many masks, but a master of manipulation, turning Venice's beauty into a deadly stage. As the clock edged closer to midnight, Elias felt the weight of the ticking time bearing down on him. The fourth mask was but another step in a relentless dance, and the question lingered: how long before the killer's next move? The city's lights shimmered, but beneath their glow lurked a darkness that threatened to consume them all. Elias's breath caught as he spotted a figure in the crowd, a mask unlike any before, the artistry meticulous and chilling. His heart hammered in his chest. Was this the killer's new face? The chase was far from over, and the night's shadows whispered warnings. Trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. He stepped forward, blending into the throng, the mask a fragile shield against the secrets that swirled around him. The game was escalating, and with each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The killer was always watching, always waiting one step ahead, one mask away from slipping into the darkness once more. As Elias plunged deeper into the masquerade's deadly dance, he knew one truth with painful clarity: the clock was ticking and time was running out. The night held its breath, the fourth mask looming on the horizon like a specter of dread. Elias's journey had only just begun, and the shadows whispered promises of revelation and ruin. Elias Vargas stepped inside, the muted warmth and faint scent of aged wood and spiced wine washing over him. The low murmur of conversation pulsed beneath the clatter of glasses and the occasional burst of laughter, all blending into a background hum that felt both inviting and threatening. Sofia Marini stood behind the bar, her figure outlined by the soft glow of candlelight. Her dark eyes scanned the room with practiced ease, capturing every glance, every whispered word. She was the pulse of this clandestine world, a keeper of secrets veiled beneath the masquerade's glittering facade. Elias approached quietly, sliding onto a worn stool. Sophia's gaze flicked to him, sharp and calculating. "You look like a man chasing ghosts," she said softly, pouring a glass of deep red wine. "Sometimes ghosts leave footprints," Elias replied, his voice low, cautious. The bartender nodded, her expression tightening. "But footprints can lead you into traps." "What do you want to hear? Rumors, truth, or something in between?" Elias leaned in, lowering his voice. "Anything that points to the killer. Someone who wears more than one face, who moves unseen?" Sophia's eyes narrowed, and she glanced around to ensure no unwanted ears were near. "There's talk," she began, "of a symbol and obscure emblem seen fleetingly on a mask, a token passed between certain guests. None dare speak openly. But I heard the name Vincenzo whispered, tied to those who walk the shadows of this festival." Elias's mind raced. Vincenzo, a name buried in old intelligence files. A ghost himself, linked to underground dealings and secrets long buried beneath Venice's shimmering surface. "Where did you hear this?" Elias asked. "From those who fear it. The ones who move in the margins, servants, minor nobles, and mercenaries alike. They see but do not dare speak." The weight of the information pressed on Elias. Could he trust Sophia, a woman whose allegiance was as fluid as the tides lapping at the city's foundations? Her role as a broker of secrets meant she navigated a perilous line between truth and deception. He took a slow sip of wine, eyes locked on hers. "Why help me?" A faint smile, almost imperceptible, touched Sophia's lips. "Because chaos is bad for business, and because some masks hide more than faces, they hide enemies." Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the creaking of the tavern door. Elias's head snapped toward the entrance as a group of masked figures slipped inside, their presence a reminder that danger was never far, even here. He watched as the figures melted into the crowd, their laughter hollow and rehearsed. The masquerade was a living puzzle, and with every piece shifted, the picture grew more complex. Later, standing alone outside beneath the cold bite of the Venetian night, Elias stared up at the flickering street lamps. Sophia's words echoed in his mind, entwining with the shadows that danced along the ancient stone walls. Vincenzo, a name. A thread that could unravel the killer's web or lead Elias deeper into the labyrinth of lies. The ticking clock was relentless. The masquerade's masks would change again, and with each transformation, the killer would slip further into the crowd. Elias clenched his fists, the cold seeping into his bones. Trust was a luxury he could no longer afford, yet he needed Sophia's secret to survive the nights ahead. The city whispered its secrets to those who dared to listen, but the truth was a dangerous mask to wear. As he turned back toward the shadows, the question burned in his mind. Could he risk everything on a whisper? And what if the whisper was a lie? The night deepened, and the masquerade's dance continued, each mask hiding a truth, each truth a threat. Elias Varga was caught in the heart of a deadly game where every secret could be his last. The hunt resumed, and the shadows waited.